talking.
Yes.
Good.
All
got it.
right. So,
All I have to do is put on there, got it.
yes.
Okay. All right.
So thank you everyone for coming today, and we welcome Dr. John Henschke. He is an emeritus professor at Lindenwood University. He is like a current, andragogy the father of andragogy right now, because if you have read the book, chapter 3 so far, you probably have heard about Malcolm Knowles. So Dr. Henschke is Malcolm Knowles' student, and he has done research on andragogy and has practiced andragogy teaching like for almost 50 years. So I will let John talk more about himself, and also, but before that, I would like you all to introduce yourself and your name, your program, and what you would like to learn about adult education so far. So, and then we can go to John. All right, I will start with Duncan.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Once again, my name is Duncan Colbreth. I'm in my third year in the Learning Design and Technology program, PhD program at State. My background is in higher education. I'm probably going to go back towards that in some form after this. Specifically, I'm still working on exactly where I want to apply this PhD in the future, but I'm very interested in distance learning and distance education of various kinds. So I'm very curious to see how I can apply and learn about different technologies, how that could work in an andragogical context. I feel like there's some really interesting opportunities there, and hopefully I'll be learning more about that as we go. So it's good to see everybody again.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
You've got a good idea about applying it in higher education. It's applicable in a wide variety of places in higher education. Okay.
Definitely. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you, Duncan. Now let's go to Kathleen.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Fogelsonger. I am in my first semester in the Master's in Education program focused on adult education and specifically continuing professional education. My current role is Senior Director of Product Management with the Institute of Internal Auditors, and I manage a team that is responsible for creating the program content for our conferences, our on-demand webcasts, in person, all of those pieces that fill the requirements for continuing professional education for internal auditors.
That sounds so fun.
It really is. It's a good job.
Absolutely. It'll be around for a long time.
Yes,
a lot
it
of
will.
people will be audited for a long time.
Very true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathleen. Now let's go to Caleb.
Okay, so my name is Caleb Chester, and I'm also in my first semester in the Masters of Education program. And I'm actually a student assistant on the NC State football team. So I'm hoping to use these skills and put them in my tool belt to be able to use them as a coach and a practitioner. So hopefully we'll be able to do that and work together.
Well,
Nice.
you may want to look at one of the doctoral dissertations that was done at Lindenwood University. Trying to think of the name, but he did it on sports.
Okay.
He did it on coaches.
Well, that's right up my alley.
Okay.
Oh, that's Hannibal's, right, John?
Hannibal
Yes.
Najar. Do
Yes.
you have a copy of that, Nita? If you don't, I'll send you a copy so you can have him take a look at that. So forth. See how he adapted andragogy to coaches.
Okay, that's perfect.
Okay.
Awesome.
You can send that to me, John, and then I can forward that to Caleb.
I will do it. I will do it.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you. All right, now that's your turn, John.
Well, I am a lifelong learner. Not yet, though. I still. Somebody asked me one day, "Have you been learning all your life?" I said, "Not yet. I still got a lot more life to live." Okay, and enjoying it every bit of it, especially the andragogy part of it. It's just, it's something that got inside of me and never got out. I just kept a hold of it. And
Tell them how old are you, John?
What?
Tell them how old are you?
You mean you think I ought to tell them? I am 90 years young.
Yes.
Okay.
That's incredible.
Did you
Yes.
did you get that? I'm 90 years young. And having fun and more fun every day. Anyway, I grew up in a home that was very oriented toward the Christian way of life, and I my mother and father told me that I was dedicated to the Lord before I was born, before they gave birth to me, and I was brought up in the church. And one day the Lord spoke to me and basically said to me that I needed to go into the ministry, and I stayed in there for a number of years and went to school at Northern Baptist Seminary in Chicago. And there's where I met my wife, and my wife and I were married for a number of years. And then the Lord called both of us into the field of adult education, me in the academic side and her in the support side for me. Okay, and we've been together, we've been married 64 years, and we have 15 grandchildren. I mean, 3 daughters and 15 grandchildren. And now we have 12 great grandchildren. And we had 2 marriages that I performed on grandsons this year. With their, of course, their wife, or each of their wives. And we have 9, 10 grandchildren, great grandchildren, I should say. That's not right. It's 10 great grandchildren and 3 step great grandchildren. So, it's quite an expanding family. We get together as often as we possibly can, and especially on holidays. But they all got themselves together and pulled a surprise on me on my birthday this year, and they had a series of celebrations, among which was one at the church on a Sunday afternoon. They got me there to the church for some other reason, and I walked into the sanctuary, and there were 100 people. And we had a celebration, and we had a big banquet, and we had 15 of our grandchildren singing songs that I knew and loved, and so forth. People talked about various things, aspects of how I had influenced them, and I told also about how I appreciated all of my students that I have been involved with. I've chaired 61 doctoral dissertation completion, and I have been a member of 55 other committees where the student completed their doctoral dissertation. And I have a modified instructional perspectives inventory that has been used in 30. It's been validated for reliability in 3 times. Has been used in 36 doctoral dissertations. Anyway, we're here today to talk about adult education and y'all's interest in all of this. Okay. So where do we go from there? Peter, you want to tell about yourself or not?
Oh, I think they know me already. We did the self-introduction in class. So yeah, to save time, okay. I'll just let you start the session. Yes.
And what are we going to do about the questions? We're going to have we could take 3 questions and distribute them among the 3 people. One person could take listen to the lecture that I give for and think about also the reading that you have done. Think about it and something that you want clarification on. Okay.
Yes.
And all of you can think about that.
Yes.
Okay. Clarification.
Yes.
The next thing, things you'd like to disagree about. Okay. Another one is what you want to have me to say more about, and then items for practical application. We'll talk about this just for a little bit, and then you can think about it, and you can think about the questions you want to ask, and then you'll ask them, and we'll occupy our time by trying to respond to them. But as you can see up in the screen, I have basically presented the overview of andragogy, and it comes from Malcolm Knowles' work, and we've condensed it into colored slide here. It has two sections to it: the assumptions and processes of andragogy. The six assumptions are: number one, it is about adults needing to know a reason for learning something. And the reason needs to make sense to the learner, not just because the teacher said that they ought to learn something or a particular thing. Concept of the learner, which is increasingly self-directing, as learners grow and develop and emerge in maturity, they want to have much more to say about their own learning than somebody else telling them. So they're increasingly self-directed. The role of the learner becomes then a rich resource for one's own learning and for the learning of others. And then there is the readiness to learn that develops from life tasks and problems. When I'm ready to graduate from a doctoral program or a master's degree program, I want to be able to apply that in a manner and have it be ready. So the life task that I'm faced with is becoming an effective adult educator, and that's where my readiness to learn applies. When I'm ready to get married, I want to know what it's going to mean to be a good husband. And you women will probably also think about what it means to be a good wife. And to be, when you're going to have a baby, you want to know how you can care for that baby in a way that will be beneficial to the baby and enjoyable to you as parents. Orientation to learning is, I think I'm making the assumption that you want to learn something tonight from our session that you can go out later tonight or tomorrow and apply it in your situation. So immediate application is the idea of adult education. Then the motivation is much more internal than external, much more based on your curiosity. So, one of the things that really has to do with what we're doing tonight is, what are you really curious about to know regarding adult education that you don't think you know, or you want to hear more about? You want clarified, or you want to see how it is practically applied. And those are the six assumptions that we base andragogy on. And then there are the 8 process elements. Preparation for your coming here tonight to be on this interaction was I sent some materials beforehand. You probably have looked at some of them and expose yourself to them, and maybe you have some ideas about what you want to gain insight about or understanding of what is to come. The climate of the whole thing, that's one of what I would say one of the most important aspects of the whole business about learning, and that's setting a climate that will be relaxed and will be trusting and mutually respectful, intentional, informal, warm, collaborative, supportive, fun, open, authentic, is very humane, and is pleasurable. And then the third step has to do with planning. And the planning in andragogy really has to do with what is mutually planned by learners and facilitators of learning. Diagnosis of needs is a mutual assessment of the learner's and the facilitators that decides what is it that we need. And then setting of objectives grows out of the needs that are diagnosed. Then the signing of the learning plan, which comes from a learning contract or learning project, or is sequenced by our readiness to take the next step in the learning process. The learning activities wraps around generally inquiry projects, independent study, experiential techniques, and something that has to do with the living that we do every day and what we are seeking to apply as far as our learning. Then evaluation is by learner collected evidence, validated by peers, facilitators, experts, and it is very in reference. I've said all I want to say right now at this time about andragogy and the assumptions and processes. And so I'll give you about a 5-minute period of time for you to write down questions that each of you have regarding things you want clarified, something you want to disagree with me on, something you want to elaborate it, or something of practical application. And we'll take about 5 minutes to do.
John, would you like me to send them to the room so that they can discuss, just in case they would like to discuss with each other?
Beg pardon? Say that?
Should I send them to like a breakout room so that they can discuss together and then come back?
Fine, that's
just in
fine.
case they want to
That'll
do
be
it.
fine. Sure,
Okay.
they can discuss among themselves. They're interested. Okay.
Yes.
Nita,
Yes.
what would you, are you thinking about?
You all can go to the room.
Okay. Is there something you're interested in learning about tonight? You think about. I want you to ask.
Hold on, John. Caleb, you can go to the room. Yes. What did you say, John?
I said, I'd like to hear from you in anything you'd like to learn.
In anything I what?
That you would like to learn about andragogy tonight that you don't know.
For me?
Or do you know everything about it?
What do I know about andragogy?
No, what do you want to know tonight?
What do I want to know tonight?
Yeah, that you don't already know. If you
That
got
is
a
an
question,
interesting question. Yes.
that
is
you have?
interesting. This is an interesting question, and I would want to know about like what are like what I would want to know about like what are how your experience in andragogy has transformed your life, like in certain area of your life, or in especially in how you view adult education.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
I'll
what shape, how does it shape?
I'll let you ask that question at the end.
Of course.
First, I want their questions, and I'll then you bring your question up, and I'll respond to that.
Yes, sounds good.
I want that answered right in front of everybody. Okay.
Yes, that's going to be very helpful.
All right.
Because like in the book that we are using for the class, we have different like adult learning theories. We have transformative learning theory. We have experiential learning theory. We have andragogy. We have So I think if we can see how your experience in applying andragogy in your profession and your life so far, how does it shape your view as an adult educator?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right on.
So what time are we bringing them back? Like
Well,
6:25?
yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
John,
Yes,
can I visit them just for a little bit and then I come back?
certainly.
Yes.
All right. It'll be
Yes.
Rick. Yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead.
Example.
Hello, everyone. Are you
You know.
doing okay here?
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. We're just getting to the practical application
Mhm.
option. And yeah, so problems of practical application, I guess is the prompt for that. So like, could you elaborate on what a practical application is
Yes,
in this
that
case?
sounds awesome. Like you guys are from different fields, like audit, computer science, right? Duncan, is that you're from computer kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's with technology. I guess computer science is
Yeah.
like involved with it. It's
Yes,
it's a
like
lot of things, to be
technology.
honest.
Yes. And Caleb
Yeah.
is from sport. So
Mhm.
totally different field. So I would be
Mhm.
interested to, to learn how you guys gonna apply that to your field as well. But let's see how will Dr. Henschke suggest.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, that sounds good.
Okay, then I think we
And
have one example for each one. We're each going to take one of the points. So I think we're ready to go back whenever you're ready for us.
okay, sounds good. Then we can just go back now.
Okay.
Yes, you can, let me see. I'm gonna take you guys back. We are back, John.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
they have some great questions and I can't wait to hear
Wonderful.
the answers.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Who wants to
right.
start?
Yeah. So I guess we're just going down the list here for clarification. I had one specifically
Okay.
about the assumptions about motivation specifically. So I guess could I get some more clarification on the definition of internal incentive? Because I can kind of contrast it with, I guess, with broader pedagogy, or like if you're thinking maybe K-12, like you have to go to school, you have to get an education, like that is certainly external. But I do feel
Yes.
like in the case of an andragogy, like maybe sometimes these things that we needed having solved immediately, or a problem that comes up in adult life that needs immediate solution, that is sort of an external force. But I also understand the general idea. So maybe just a bit more clarification on internal motivation here would be helpful.
Okay. The idea about internal is what may be called hygiene factor. Okay. And that is your internal sense of where do you want to go in your life? What if you were to project 15 years from now, or even 5 years, where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? And what are the things that will go on with you that indicates to you this is what I really want to have. What do
Okay.
you? Okay, it's in other words, it's the internal sense of excitement with your life. What do you want to take as next steps in your life? What do you think is important as far as your relationships with other people? What kind of element may step into your life regarding the issues that have to do with faith. And so I don't know whether it's more an internal kind of thing. How do you see yourself wanting to grow and mature?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the clarification there.
Okay. We got the next question. You want to go with a rebuttal issue now that somebody else wants to?
Yep.
Show? Okay.
Yep, I'll take that one. So for this one, and I'm going to frame it as a question because it feels a little strange to disagree with you after reading your bio and listening to Nita introduce you. So the point I had kind of a counterpoint to was the part about it being for immediate application. And the reason I kind of want to bring this up as a question is what I'm seeing in my classes that we're holding is we're finding more people. It used to be that way. It used to be people wanted a tool, they wanted to apply it when they left the room. With the pace of change the way it is now, I'm seeing people take classes in things they think they might need at some point in the future. So for instance, a course on how to audit the blockchain, and their companies aren't even using blockchain yet. They're not set up, they are years away from it, but they're showing up in these classes in case. And I guess what my question related to this is that a matter of the kind of the world we're in because we're in such a change forward environment, or has it always been that way to some extent? Is this because the environment's shifting, or is that there was always components of both?
Well, I would respond to that this particular. You use the word blockchain or blockchain.
Blockchain, yes.
Okay, blockchain. My coming back. I mean, my immediate response would be, since you're interested in that, what do you know about that? What, if anything, do you know about that at this particular time? And what are you willing to devote some time right now to find out what blockchaining is? It may be a vague concept. It may be something that you will put together from what you have heard from other people, and it might be what other people have said about blockchain. But what is it you know right now that you don't know? I mean, what are you interested in regarding that? Finding out what you don't know about that.
Oh, so that's the immediate
and taking
application.
That would be an immediate kind of thing.
Ah.
Why wait until next week or next month or next year to start thinking about that? Why not, if you're interested in that, why not start on that and say, where am I going to find out about this concept of blockchaining that I don't know, and I know almost nothing about it right now.
So they're not using that set, but they are satisfying that immediate need for the knowledge. So that is their immediate application.
Yes, right. That would be the immediate application. In other words, you might not use that fully until about 5 or 10 years from now, when that begins to emerge. But why not you're taking the step and the step toward being one of the movers and shakers about finding out and shaping the concept of blockchaining. What would be wrong with? I don't think anything would be wrong if you're taking that step and you being one of the forerunners of saying, here's something I found out about it. What do the rest of you guys know about it? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's an immediate kind of thing. All right. So you're taking a step for your future. Not 2 years from now, but a week, like tomorrow.
So it's kind of by virtue of most adult education being voluntary or elective. So by being like ready to learn,
yes, right.
That has to do with the immediacy. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense.
All right. Did that work okay?
That was wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right. What about anything you want to elaborate it on? Who wants to talk about that?
So I'll cover elaboration.
Okay.
I just wanted to know if you could elaborate on the difference between learning plans and then designing a learning plan and then learning activities. because I'm picking up on some similarities. So I just wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Well, designing, take for instance, let's talk about andragogy. This andragogy, the process, the 8 steps of the process. Okay, that when we look at that, when we look at the 7th step, the carrying forth of the activities, that's where most of pedagogy is found. The pedagogy that we are brought up with is that the teacher does all the planning, and it's all ready for us when we step into the room. And when we step into the room, we do the activity that goes for that learning. Whereas in andragogy, you have 8 steps in the process, and learning is a process rather than an end goal, if you will. And in andragogy, all 8 of those steps are part of your learning, so that when you get to the planned activities, you have had a hand in shaping all of that, rather than somebody else shaping that for you. Okay, so that the learning takes place when you're preparing to come to this session tonight. You did some interaction about that. That was part of your learning. You're experiencing the atmosphere right now, the concept, and the idea of the concept of your being a learner is that you are actively engaging in trying to find out what are the steps in this whole process. You're thinking about, would I be on my own, only doing that in self-directed, or can I call on other resources to help? Yes, right now you're calling on some other resources to help. And then you go into the diagnosis of thinking about what are my ideas about being a good adult educator, and where do I measure up on each one of those types right now, and what is my goal for it, and taking up the gap between those two as a means for learning that becomes immediate. But then you go into the setting of objectives, and I like to think that the objectives are what kinds of knowledges, understandings, skills, attitudes, values, and interests do you have for the performance of what it is that you want to know about the whole learning process. And then when you do that, you say, well, now what are the techniques that I have available to me? You know, there are huge number of techniques. I have one technique, or one cadre of techniques, I should say, that I got from somebody else, and it is an item that said there are 701 techniques for learning online. So I can go to that resource anytime I want to, and I can go through that and decide what one of those techniques do I want to use. Okay, that will be beneficial for me. And so I have to do some thinking about that. Is something going to be related to me? If I read something about one of those techniques and it doesn't touch me at all, then I'll go on to something else. Okay, and that's what techniques do I want to put together? And then when I get that whole idea, again, that's when I decide what the design will be. And then I conduct the activities, and then I evaluate. I can put it in a different frame of reference, is that there the components of learning design models go along the line of a large, what do you say, a lecture, kind of a lecture kind I did at the beginning. Then steps after that have to do with small groups you're doing small groups right now and determining whatever it is that you want to know about this whole business about putting a plan together. The idea of having variety is an important piece of the learning process. When we design a house, we don't want to have every room look the same. We want to have certain decoration for each one of the rooms. Like any stage that you have of going through that, you want that to look in the way that you want it to look, rather than what somebody else has put it on you and say you got to do it this way. All right, and then at the end, you come down and you say, well, now I've learned so much, and what else do I want to learn about this? What more do I want to learn about? Okay, designing has to do picking up the things that you know or that somebody else knows. You might turn to somebody else and say, do you know of anything that would help me to be able to learn thus and so and thus and so? Right, and then somebody else says, well, I've had an experience with doing that. They might share with you one or two ideas and say, oh, I like that idea. I think I'll pursue that one. And that becomes part of the design. And then you implement that as you your activity and evaluate. Now, I've learned about maybe 5% of what I want to know about all this. What's my next step in doing that? In the activity. Does that address what you're trying to ask?
Yes, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Now let's come around and let's hear if anybody else has a clarification.
I think it's application, right?
Oh yeah, application. Thank you.
Yes.
Application. Who wants to do the application?
I think we kind of left that open because the three of us come from such different backgrounds, professionally or academically or both. That did you want to have us offer an example of practical application or a question about how we could apply this to our specific field? I mean, what would you like to see here?
No, yeah, it's more of a question.
Okay.
If you have something about area that you're going to go into high school, not high school, but higher education, do you have a question about how this would apply? Andragogy would apply to what you may ultimately end up in.
Yeah, that is a good question. It's funny because looking through the especially the assumptions, but actually the process elements too. So my main experience in teaching before I started this grad program was teaching a first-year experience for first-year students in higher ed. So, that first semester, typically one semester long, helping them transition from high school or K-12 into higher ed. And almost all of these are things that kind of were tacitly worked into our training to instruct this, but also just the curriculum in general. I think it goes pretty hand in hand with a lot of student affairs theory. But it's never been explicitly framed as andragogy, right? So I think it's very interesting. I also understand that there are lots of definitions of andragogy, and there is no set age range, of course. But it's interesting that this seems to be kind of the default approach to the first year learning experience, without actually ever having said andragogy outright. But a lot about planning with and planning together with students, being able to make a contract as a class and kind of define some learning objectives outside of maybe some of the broader ones, and even evaluation and letting them kind of evaluate one another, give peer feedback, and just understanding that for the most part they're there because they want to be. It's that is a little bit different because sometimes it is a requirement depending on what grade pursuit they have. But I think broadly speaking, it's like you are at university because you want to be. So we can kind of hinge off of that motivation. So it's just, I guess it's not really so much of a question, but have you been able to speak with student affairs professionals before, or maybe for folks that do work in higher education specifically, and talk about the applications of andragogical models to that? It was a bit of a ramble, I'm sorry.
Let me give you the steps that I took in writing my first, not my first, writing a chapter or book that I had sort of ruminating in me for about 22 years when I came into the field of adult education. What are the elements that I think are important for becoming an educator of adult? I've been in the field 22 years, and I thought about my own experience. I talked with other people who had experience in it and so forth. And what I came up with was 5 major steps. Okay? First one is, who is the adult learner? What do you think? How do you describe the adult learner? Second is, what do you think is important as far as they're doing an effective job of teaching and engaging students in the learning process? Third is, what are the phases and sequences that they go through as far as learning from their initial curiosity to carrying through? In other words, what is the theory that informs what you're doing, whether it's pedagogy, andragogy, self-directed learning, experiential learning, so forth. Okay. The fourth thing is, what are teaching tips and learning techniques that you can use in that process? That's all pre-planned. That's all thought about. But my fifth step was in my chapter that I wrote, is implementing the prepared plan. So I have planned all these wonderful things, what I say are quote unquote wonderful for the learning process. And I walk down the hall and I step into that classroom. And there is a group of a body of live people in that room. What is it I do, or I think is important? Making that group of people come alive in their excitement about what they want to learn. How do I make that valley of dry bones get up and live? Okay. And then, in other words, it's not a thing that I've pre-planned a whole lot. What am I going to do as I walk in there as the facilitator to make that group of people come alive in what they want to accomplish? Because my purpose in being there as a facilitator is not to accomplish my goals per se, but it is for me to be able to connect with them and help them connect and carry out the goals that they have. And that's the practical application. And I go through that process every time I go into a classroom. I've done it for this one. I said, how am I going to respond in this situation? And you're challenging me with each one of these questions to answer that question. How am I going to respond to that will make some sense? Does that address your inquiry?
It does. I really like that line about the Valley of Dry Bones. I'm gonna have to remember that one for sure. Thank you.
Yes. All right. We got another one that somebody has about clarification. Anything?
Anybody has any questions?
You know, I have one more.
Yes.
And it was in regards to one of the pre-readings.
Okay.
The instrument in particular. It was interesting. There was a lot in here that is very interesting to me, honestly. But what I was curious about was it ties, obviously the supervisor's training of the person seems to be the focus in the way that's modeled, which makes sense because that's how most people come on board with their jobs. They have to learn from somebody. But I guess my question is in regards to, I'm external when we're bringing in this learning. We're not their supervisors per se, but and I highlighted it here. Hold on a second. The comments about how it impacted employee satisfaction and retention. that people stayed in these jobs. They didn't just learn more from this stuff, but when there was the empathetic supervisor and that they felt they were being heard, that actually impacted their ability to stay at a company. I was trying to figure out, when you're external and coming in, how do you still provide that same benefit? So these teachers aren't going to be with them long term. They're there for a piece. Does that same impact occur?
Let me see if I can respond to that in some way that will really take a hold of this.
Okay.
I consider myself, every time I go into a situation like this, as well as, you know, what other things that I've been doing over the years to teach in a higher education setting or whatever. My primary issue is, what do I need to learn or to focus on to engage the participants in an active way so that they come alive in it? How do I need to make myself alive in order to engage them in becoming alive? Now, does that say anything? You know, my focus is not on what it is that I need to say to everybody else. It's what I need to do. Because right now I'm once again struggling with the idea of how can I make this vibrant to engage you as an earlier inquirer in the process of learning. Then we come to the end of it, and then I go another step with some other group. Next time I'm with another group of people, I'll go through the same process, because I'll have to say, what do I have to put together for myself that is important, that will engage them in the process of finding out what they want to find. You won't be in this class forever, okay? You will be in another class. You'll have another teacher that will be teaching you or working with you on a given night, or you'll be engaging with Samanita, Dr. Samanita, and she'll be working with you in various aspects. What is it you want to know at that particular time? There are those who have gone into higher education and have done something else. What maybe you want to say to yourself? Aren't you the one that is talking about auditors?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What is it you want to present to these auditors that would demonstrate to them what you want to learn about, and ask them to respond to that? Who are these auditors? What do you know about them? What kind of background do they have in auditing? And what do they want to tell you? What would you like to know about auditing that they can tell you that might be helpful to you, for you to put together the kind of thing that will at the next stage will grab them in a special way? When I think of auditors, I'm thinking about these, I shouldn't say it in a political way, but it is the business about the president wants to put out 87,000 new auditors in the IRS. I don't know whether you've heard of that or not.
My auditors are a different kind. Mine are the type that work inside of a company to try to catch fraud before it gets out. So they try to help companies from going back.
Right.
So
All right.
It's a little easier than that one. That's a big
All
one.
right. Let's do that one that you mentioned. Maybe one of the first questions you want to ask your participants is, what kind of fraud do you see going on in the company? What if any? And have that be the first question they ask. Now you need to set the climate that they won't be thrown out of the company when they identify something that either rubs you the wrong way or would be something that the company would not want to have get out. You need to provide a safe climate for them to do that. Okay, otherwise they're going to be very hesitant. You know, they might want to send them in smaller groups and take the time for them to talk about that as a group of people. Maybe the three of you ought to talk about that, and then you could say, well, I could take this idea and go in my company and possibly identify that. Okay, does that address the question?
It does. Thank you very much.
Yes. All right. Any other questions? Any rebuttals? Any challenges? You know, I'm still in the process of learning because I haven't dealt with you three people or you four people before in this combination. So I'm having to learn a new thing because of this new group of people. And to me, I mean, that's part of what makes it so exciting to me. Go ahead. Somebody's saying.
So
Nita,
I think,
okay, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to add a little bit about in response to Kathleen's question. So I think
Sure.
andragogy kind of provides a lens for you to connect with students or employees that you are working with. So like you can understand their needs better by, you know, doing need assessment first, so that you kind of know what they want to improve in their skill set or their knowledge in the field, so that they feel like cared for. They feel like you are caring about that self or professional development in your workplace. So then that is how you address, how can you learn to address their needs by only understand who they are and what they want to improve with their current profession. And then that is the way that they feel valued, and then you can keep them longer. Because, you know, we always want to move if we don't feel like we, you know, our needs are met, or even we don't feel like, you know, like our professional development is not going any further. So we don't want to stay. So I think that is the element that andragogy can provide. And also andragogy focuses mainly on relationship building as well. So as a leader in the organization, relationship building is important. And, you know, leaders have different leading styles, but still you need to have a good relationship with your followers. And you cannot do that without having effective communication and understanding their needs. So yeah, so I would be interested in hearing about how you guys apply what you've learned today in your profession or your occupations, you know. So who want to start?
I will.
Thank you, Kathleen.
No problem. Yeah, no, I think I took quite a bit of notes, honestly. So I've got a lot of little nuggets that I think I can apply in a few different manners. The one that jumps out to me, if I have to pick one, is looking at the chart that we've been looking at on the screen. The type of education I'm providing, we sell, and we have a lot of competition. So people make a choice. They choose the value of this over others. And this made me slow down and think about, you know, the balance between what we need to market externally versus making them satisfied with the learning experience once they arrive. And so I think it just gave me another lens to take a look at our learning products through, to say, when somebody takes them, are we meeting all of these needs and these expectations? Because then they're going to be more likely to come back. So that is the takeaway I'm taking from this today.
Right. Someone else.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Kathleen. Who else
Yes.
want to go next?
I can go next.
Okay, go ahead, Kenneth.
So I really think the process elements, I think you can relate a lot of those to coaching and game preparation. And I think, like, just for example, I think the section on planning, perfect for game planning and practice planning, setting objectives for each opponent we have. We want to set an objective of how we're going to attack them and how they're going to try to attack us. I think it all translates really well, and I'm actually interested to get that article from the article that you mentioned at the beginning. I'm really interested to see how that one actually, since that one is sports specific, I bet that one would be very beneficial.
You're talking about Hannibal's dissertation on coaching.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll get that to you.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome. You know, this is the first time we have students from, you know, sport field joining us in
Wonderful.
adult learner class. So I would be interested in seeing how, you know, they apply the theory into their profession too. So thank you, Caleb. Now let's
right.
go to Duncan.
Sure, yeah. So this will be a little bit more removed from higher education specifically and more about just online learning. But one theory that I've just been playing around with when I've been kind of looking into my dissertation is the community of inquiry framework. And that's like an early 2000s study. Here's actually a nice little graphic and a link in case you would like to see the basic idea, but it's kind of the combination of three elements, presences as they're called, and the way that they overlap can kind of inform how to create good online instruction. And actually, I can see a lot of application between some of these assumptions and process elements that could go into something like the social teaching and cognitive presences here. So particularly, I think in setting the climate, but also selecting the content can both really be informed by this. And I can absolutely see this model, these assumptions going into it. So if I end up choosing this for maybe my framework for my dissertation, I could see some other opportunities to kind of bring that in, because I do think that there is a lot of application that's under researched in online education and that kind of technology that could go towards andragogy that hasn't really been brushed on yet. I think we're kind of playing catch up to a lot of these technological changes from the pandemic in all sorts of fields, and I'm sure andragogy is no exception here. So anyway, that's just something that came to mind.
Yeah, we're still in the initial stages of development of andragogy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a kind of a young science, if you will, of education. Right? Ada, do you have a question that you want to ask?
Oh yeah, so I have a question to Duncan first. So did you just make it? I mean the figure, did you just make
Oh,
it?
no. I pulled this from a bigger
Oh.
website
Oh,
in here,
okay.
actually. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not that
No, I
fast.
thought you were
promise.
like putting thoughts together. That's
Oh,
awesome.
no, that would be
But
amazing. No, this is
you,
the bigger site. It's a very handy graphic for a larger concept, though.
but that's
Right.
interesting. You know, you can watch these
Yeah,
things out. So
sure.
Yeah.
So John, I have a question. So I would be interested in hearing about your pre-assumption or preconception about andragogy before you enter the field, and how the experience in your andragogy, you know, has shaped your pre-assumption or your concept. Basically, like your kind of transformation experience.
My
That would be
transformation
interesting, yeah.
experience was
Yes.
I went to an experiential education opportunity for about a week up in Green Lake, Wisconsin, 1965. And I had heard about this experiential education, but I wanted to hear more about it. It was experiential was the word that grabbed my attention. So I went there for a week or maybe 10 days. Okay. And I came home and tried to apply some of the things and so on and so forth. Talked with my wife about it, so forth. 2 years later, I went to an advanced laboratory of experiential education. He went to the beginning exposure of experiential education. And so we spent that week together, but only she was in a different group than I was. We went home. We talked about it. And then we went to our national convention of the church. I was a pastor for a long time. And I went to the Pittsburgh convention in 1967. And at the end of the church conference, they always have a dedication service for the new missionaries that are being commissioned that year. And at the beginning of the service, the song was sung at the opening of the service, once to every man and nation comes a chance to decide. And the Lord spoke to both my wife and myself individually, simultaneously, that we were to move on and to find another field of service. We were in the pastoral ministry. And from there, we made a decision to set in motion the various factors and steps that we had to do in order for me to follow what one of the trainers said to me is you need to go to get a doctorate degree in a related discipline. And I did, and I followed what he had to say to us. I ended up at Boston University, did my doctoral work there, still pastored for a while, part-time while I was there. But then I went into, after I got done with my residence work, then sent out feelers for jobs and got involved in University of Missouri Extension, was there exclusively for 13 years, and then came to University of Missouri St. Louis and was there for 26 years before I retired, and then went to Lindenwood University for 7 years, and I retired in the December 31st, 2016. But every step along the way has been the prompting internally that my wife and I had, as well as myself before she was involved, for us to do what we had done. And we are today where we are today because of the inspiration of all of that, to follow our internal promptings that we had to step forward. We have gotten to do and to travel more places and work in adult education in 19 countries, more than we ever would have thought we would have done in 5 lifetimes, simply because we followed our internal promptings and shared them with each other, and still share them today, that it would be the way it is. This is why I'm involved here tonight, because of the promptings that I have from some of my former students. I got a new adventure that's coming up in October, in which I'm going out to Portland, Oregon, to talk with the leaders of a school for the blind, the state school for the blind, and how they will think about teaching or sharing andragogy with blind folks. That's a new adventure for me. I was exposed to some of that when I was in Thailand in 2013, when we went out to visit some of the various places in the remote. But Atia, I think we went. Were you with that group, Nita?
Yes, that's with the field trip with non-formal education department.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, exactly. But that's going to be a new adventure for me. And what I'm saying is follow your internal promptings and carry forward in that particular, the things that the 3 students have done tonight, shows what already was prompted in them. And I encourage them to keep following their promptings in the direction that they want to inquire and find more about andragogy and look at the application of it in their own life and in the life of others as they go into whatever, whether it's auditing or whether it's coaching or whether it's whatever else, anything else. Okay.
Yes.
And that's I think I'm looking at the time, and I think we are a little bit past our time.
Yes.
Other
Well,
things, I want to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed talking with a small group of people here, but we have touched on some big things as far as I'm tonight. And I want to thank you for the privilege of talking with you and sharing with you, and you're sharing with the rest of the group and with me.
Thank you so much, John. You are always amazing. Yes.
Thank you,
I
Dr.
always
Henschke.
enjoyed your story, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And if you still have any questions, you can always contact me. And yes, and I will remember to send that document to Caleb.
And I'll get this other material. I'll get this sent to Anita, and we'll carry forward with that. And any other things that you want to ask about along the way, don't hesitate because andragogs love to interact with the other andragogs.
We love questions.
What?
I said we love questions.
All right.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, John. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you both
Thank
for your
you.
time.
I wish the very best for each one of you three. Absolutely. You got great futures ahead of you,
Mhm.
and I encourage you. And you know, to me, the thing is to push forward on what you want to do. What's your dream, and how are you going to follow it, and how are you going to implement it, and how are you going to you know, put your shoulder to the wheel and dig after it.
Yes. That's part of our andragogy, right? You come to school because you
Absolutely
have
it
certain
is.
purpose, your certain
Yeah.
goals to achieve.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Good night.
You have a
Thank
good
you so
night.
much. Good night.
Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Uh,